Before civilization, before cities and kings, before humanity could even dream of shaping the earth, there was a beginning, a humble beginning rooted in the cradle of time. The dawn of civilization is the story of our shared origins. It is the story of how a simple species, Homo sapiens, journeyed from scattered hunter-gatherers to the architects of empires. Humanity's journey began millions of years ago, long before civilization as we know it. Our ancestors emerged in Africa, evolving through ages of survival, adapting to the harsh landscapes, changing climates, and unpredictable threats. As the Pleistocene epoch raged on, these early humans forged tools, controlled fire, and communicated in ways we're only beginning to understand. It was here, in the savannas and forests of Africa, that Homo erectus, our ancient cousins, began to walk upright, giving them a vantage point to scan the horizon and to wield tools, which marked a significant leap in human evolution. This upright stance freed their hands, allowing them to manipulate objects, use fire, and eventually migrate beyond the African continent. Roughly 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, a major shift occurred. Our ancestors began to venture beyond Africa. Crossing harsh deserts, enduring freezing climates, and navigating unfamiliar landscapes, they began to spread across the globe. This migration wasn't just a search for new lands, but also a quest for survival. Along the way, they encountered different environments and adapted in extraordinary ways. The glaciated plains of Europe demanded new strategies for warmth and hunting. The jungles of Southeast Asia offered an abundance of resources, but also new challenges. And in these environments, the seeds of culture were sown. As humans spread, they didn't just survive, they thrived. Early humans developed language, engaged in art, and formed complex social structures. These were the early stirrings of what we would one day call civilization. The traces of these migrations still live within us today. The genetic footprints of those early wanderers can be found in every human alive. We are all descendants of that initial journey out of Africa, making us a part of a story that spans tens of thousands of years. But the true dawn of civilization came not with stone tools or fire, but with something far more transformative: agriculture. The Neolithic Revolution, as it's often called, began around 10,000 years ago. This was the time when humans made the radical decision to settle down, cultivate the land, and domesticate animals. In places like the Fertile Crescent, the plains of the Nile, and the valleys of the Yangtze and Indus rivers, early humans began to domesticate crops such as wheat, barley, and rice. These stable food sources allowed communities to grow and villages to form. No longer were humans dependent on the uncertainties of hunting and gathering. They could plan, store food for the future, and support larger populations. The shift from foraging to farming had profound effects on humanity. For the first time, people settled in one place, and in these early settlements, something remarkable began to happen. Society started to form. roles within these early villages became more specialized. Some farmed, others crafted tools, and some even began to develop religious or spiritual practices. With the rise of agriculture came surplus, more food than a single family could eat. This surplus allowed for the development of trade. Bartering goods, exchanging ideas, and interacting with other groups created networks of exchange that began to stretch over long distances. These early trading routes, though rudimentary, were the first steps toward complex economies. And with this new abundance of food and resources came a need for organization, leading to the development of leaders, early governments, and social hierarchies. As the Neolithic Revolution progressed, small villages grew into towns, and some into the first cities. Perhaps the first of these cities was Uruk, located in modern-day Iraq, part of the region we know as Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. In Mesopotamia, civilization truly began to take shape. Here, writing was invented, cuneiform, a system of symbols pressed into clay tablets, allowing for the recording of laws, trade, and history. With the invention of writing, humans could communicate across time and space, creating a lasting record of their achievements and laws. The rise of writing went hand in hand with the rise of governments and organized religion. In Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and later in China, powerful leaders emerged, kings and pharaohs who ruled vast territories. These rulers were often seen as divine, ordained by the gods to maintain order and oversee their people. In these early states, monumental architecture was born. Temples and pyramids were constructed not only as places of worship, but as symbols of the power and permanence of these civilizations. The ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the pyramids of Egypt, and the great palaces of the Indus Valley are testaments to the organizational capacity and engineering prowess of early humans. Egypt, with its fertile Nile River and rich resources, became one of the world's first great civilizations. The pyramids at Giza, still standing after thousands of years, are perhaps the most iconic symbols of this era. These structures, built as tombs for the pharaohs, demonstrate the immense wealth and power of the Egyptian state. While Egypt and Mesopotamia were flourishing, another great civilization was rising in the Indus Valley, located in modern-day Pakistan and India. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were marvels of urban planning. They had sophisticated drainage systems, large public baths, and a degree of equality among the inhabitants that was unique for its time. To the east, along the Yellow River in China, the first dynasties were beginning to emerge. The Shang dynasty, which began around 1600 BCE, is the first Chinese civilization we know of that left behind written records, inscribed on oracle bones. China would go on to become one of the longest-lasting and most influential civilizations in history. As civilizations grew, so too did their ambitions. The Age of Empires began, with great kingdoms expanding their borders through conquest, diplomacy, and trade. One of the first and most expansive was the Persian Empire, which stretched from the Indus Valley to Egypt and Greece. Under rulers like Cyrus the Great and Darius, the Persians created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. They built roads that connected the empire, established a postal system, and governed with a policy of tolerance toward the cultures and religions of conquered peoples. In the West, Greece was laying the foundations for Western civilization. From the city-states of Athens and Sparta came innovations in philosophy, science, and politics that would shape the course of history. Democracy was born in Athens, while philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle explored the nature of existence, knowledge, and ethics. Rome, however, would surpass Greece in both scale and power. At its height, the Roman Empire controlled much of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The Romans were master builders, constructing roads, aqueducts, and cities across their empire, many of which still stand today. The Romans also codified laws that would influence legal systems for centuries. Their governance, military tactics, and cultural achievements made them one of the most influential civilizations in history. But even the greatest empires eventually fall. While Rome fell in the West, other empires continued to thrive in the East. In Persia, the Sassanid Empire rose, continuing the legacy of their predecessors, while in China, the Han Dynasty built upon the achievements of the Song and Zhou, consolidating power and laying the foundation for a united China. The Han period witnessed tremendous advancements in governance, technology, and trade. The Silk Road became a vital artery of trade connecting China, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Silk, spices, precious metals, and ideas flowed along these routes, knitting together far-flung cultures in a web of exchange. The world was growing smaller, and with that connection came shared knowledge, wealth, and, sometimes, conflict. In this age of empires, many of the innovations that shape our world today were born. The Chinese invented paper and gunpowder. Indian mathematicians devised the concept of zero and advanced astronomy. The Greeks refined philosophy and science, and the Romans perfected engineering and law. Together, these advancements laid the groundwork for a new world that was on the horizon. As civilizations expanded, so too did their capacity for thought and reflection. Religion and philosophy began to take hold, offering people not just rules for living, but a framework for understanding the world and their place within it. Since the earliest days of human existence, spirituality has been central to human communities. Early humans worshipped nature, the sun, the moon, and their ancestors. But as societies grew more complex, so did their religious systems. The Sumerians, who established one of the first civilizations, also created some of the earliest known religious structures, the ziggurats, dedicated to their gods. From Mesopotamia, belief systems began to evolve, influencing civilizations across the Middle East. In India, the Vedic period gave birth to one of the world's oldest religious traditions, Hinduism. The Vedic texts, transmitted orally over generations, contained hymns, philosophies, and rituals that shaped Indian society and culture. Out of this rich religious tradition, new schools of thought emerged. Around 500 BCE, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama sought enlightenment and, in doing so, founded Buddhism, a spiritual philosophy focused on the end of suffering and the attainment of nirvana. Meanwhile, in China, Confucianism was taking root. Confucius, a philosopher and teacher, emphasized moral integrity, the importance of family, and the structure of society. His teachings would come to dominate Chinese thought for millennia, influencing governance, ethics, and education. Farther west, monotheism emerged. The Hebrews, a small tribe in the ancient Near East, introduced a new idea, the belief in one all-powerful God. This faith, crystallized in the form of Judaism, laid the foundation for Christianity and Islam, two of the world's largest religions. At the same time, in Greece, a different kind of belief was taking shape. Philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle began to question the nature of existence, the meaning of life, and the functioning of society. Their ideas laid the groundwork for Western philosophy and scientific inquiry. But as civilizations grew, so too did their fragility. The empires and kingdoms that once seemed eternal began to crumble under the weight of internal strife, invasion, and natural disasters. Rome, the greatest empire the world had ever seen, was not immune to collapse. By the 5th century CE, a combination of barbarian invasions, internal decay, and overexpansion led to its fall. The city that had once ruled much of Europe and the Mediterranean was reduced to ruins. Rome was not the first nor the last great civilization to fall. The cities of the Indus Valley, the Hittite Empire, and the once thriving Mayan civilization all suffered similar fates, succumbing to the forces of nature, war, or internal collapse. In many cases, the causes of these collapses remain a mystery. Climate change, drought, and environmental degradation likely played a role. Overfarming and deforestation may have rendered once fertile lands barren, leading to famine and unrest. As civilizations crumbled, their people were forced to adapt. Some fled, becoming nomadic once again. Others integrated with neighboring tribes or newly rising powers. In the chaos that followed, new opportunities for growth and reinvention emerged. After the fall of Rome, much of Europe descended into what historians have often called the Dark Ages. But even in this time of apparent decline, knowledge persisted. Monasteries became centers of learning, where scholars painstakingly copied ancient texts and preserved the wisdom of Greece and Rome. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, the golden age of science, philosophy, and art was dawning. Cities like Baghdad and Cordoba became hubs of learning, where scholars from across the known world gathered to exchange ideas. The Islamic caliphates translated and preserved Greek, Roman, Indian, and Persian texts, ensuring that the knowledge of past civilizations would not be lost. Even the Mongols, often remembered for their destructive conquests, played a crucial role in connecting the East and West. After their initial conquests, the Mongol Empire facilitated trade and cultural exchange across Eurasia, linking distant civilizations and allowing for the flow of ideas and goods. As the ashes of Rome's collapse settled, a new dawn was on the horizon. In Europe, the Renaissance marked a rebirth of knowledge, art, and human spirit. Inspired by the classical texts preserved during the Dark Ages, European scholars, artists, and thinkers began to question, explore, and innovate once again. Figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo not only advanced the arts, but also explored the intersection of science and philosophy. Meanwhile, scientists like Galileo and Copernicus challenged old world views, laying the foundation for the scientific revolution. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the 15th century revolutionized the spread of knowledge. Books, once rare and expensive, became widely available, allowing ideas to spread across Europe at an unprecedented rate. Europe's rediscovery of knowledge also fueled a new age of exploration. Navigators set sail across uncharted oceans, connecting continents and civilizations in ways that had never been possible before. The age of exploration brought the world closer together, but it also set the stage for conflict, colonization, and the exploitation of new lands. The Renaissance, with its blossoming of culture, science, and exploration, was not just a European phenomenon. Across the world, other civilizations were experiencing their own periods of growth, discovery, and renewal. The dawn of modern civilization was at hand. With the Renaissance setting the stage, the Age of Enlightenment emerged in the 17th and 18th centuries, challenging old authorities and ideologies. In this era, thinkers like John Locke, Voltaire, and Immanuel Kant began to question the divine right of kings, the nature of knowledge, and the rights of individuals. The Enlightenment was a time when reason, science, and liberty became the guiding principles for a new world order. Central to the Enlightenment was the belief in human progress. The old feudal systems of Europe, deeply rooted in religious and monarchical authority, were challenged by new ideas about democracy, equality, and individual rights. Political philosophy underwent radical transformations, and these shifts set the stage for revolutions around the world. In 1776, the American colonies declared independence from Britain, invoking the Enlightenment ideals of self-governance and individual rights. The American Revolution not only created a new nation, but also inspired others around the world to fight for freedom and self-determination. Just over a decade later, the French Revolution shook the foundations of European monarchies. The people of France, inspired by Enlightenment ideals, rose against the tyranny of the crown and aristocracy. Though the revolution was violent and chaotic, it established the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity, values that would echo across Europe and the world. The waves of revolution did not stop in Europe. Inspired by the same Enlightenment ideals, nations across Latin America, from Mexico to Argentina, fought for their independence. In Haiti, the first successful slave rebellion led to the creation of the world's first Black Republic. This period marked the birth of modern nationalism and the dismantling of colonial empires. As revolutions reshaped the political landscape, another revolution was quietly transforming human life, this one not of ideals, but of machines. The Industrial Revolution began in Britain in the late 18th century, forever altering how humans lived, worked, and interacted with the world. Powered by coal and steam, the Industrial Revolution saw the rise of mechanized manufacturing, allowing goods to be produced at a scale never before seen. Factories sprang up in cities, drawing millions of people from rural areas into rapidly growing urban centers. For many, this was the dawn of modern industrial society. The new technologies of the Industrial Revolution connected the world in ways previously unimaginable. Railroads stitched together continents, steamships crossed oceans in record time, and the telegraph allowed messages to be sent across the globe in mere minutes. The world was shrinking, and trade, communication, and transportation were fundamentally transformed. But the Industrial Revolution also brought with it new challenges. The rapid pace of urbanization created squalid living conditions for many workers. Child labor, long hours, and dangerous working environments became common, sparking the rise of labor movements seeking to improve conditions for the working class. Social divisions widened between the wealthy industrialists and the impoverished workers. In response to the inequalities of industrial capitalism, new political ideologies began to emerge. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, observing the plight of the working class, wrote the Communist Manifesto, advocating for a classless society where workers controlled the means of production. This radical vision would inspire revolutions and movements throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Yet the Industrial Revolution also ushered in an era of unprecedented innovation. Visionaries like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla revolutionized electricity, while engineers developed new technologies that would power the next century. The world was changing rapidly, and humanity was poised to enter a new, modern age. By the dawn of the 20th century, the industrialized world was unrecognizable compared to just a century earlier. The rapid pace of technological advancement, the growth of cities, and the rise of new political ideologies set the stage for an era of unprecedented change and unprecedented conflict. World War I, known as the Great War, was the first modern conflict of its kind. Fueled by industrialized weapons and deep-seated nationalist tensions, it resulted in the deaths of millions and the collapse of empires. The Old World Order, dominated by European monarchies, was gone, replaced by new nations and ideologies. The Russian Revolution of 1917 saw the fall of the Russian Empire and the rise of the world's first communist state, led by Vladimir Lenin. The establishment of the Soviet Union marked the beginning of a new era in global politics, pitting capitalism against communism in an ideological struggle that would define much of the 20th century. In the aftermath of World War I, the world experienced a brief period of prosperity known as the Roaring Twenties. Cities flourished, culture exploded, and new technologies, like the automobile and radio, transformed daily life. But beneath the surface, economic instability was brewing. The Great Depression of the 1930s devastated economies worldwide. Millions were thrown into poverty, unemployment soared, and political tensions mounted. The world was on edge, and it wasn't long before another, even more destructive conflict emerged. World War II brought unprecedented destruction and horror. Fought across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, it was a total war that claimed the lives of over 60 million people. The Holocaust, the dropping of atomic bombs on Japan, and the firebombing of cities revealed the terrifying power of modern warfare. In the wake of this devastation, world leaders sought to ensure that such a conflict would never happen again. The United Nations was founded, and efforts were made to rebuild war-torn nations through initiatives like the Marshall Plan in Europe and post-war reconstruction in Japan. But peace was elusive. The Cold War, a geopolitical and ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, dominated the second half of the 20th century. Proxy wars, nuclear arms races, and tense diplomatic standoffs kept the world on the brink of destruction for decades. As the Cold War came to a close in the late 20th century, a new era of technology dawned. The rise of the Internet, personal computers, and smartphones connected people around the world in ways that had once been the stuff of science fiction. The digital revolution transformed how we communicate, work, and live. The creation of the World Wide Web in the 1990s opened up vast possibilities for information sharing, commerce, and connectivity. Today, the Internet is the backbone of the modern world, influencing everything from social interactions to global commerce. The digital age has allowed for unprecedented global connectivity. Social media platforms now connect billions of people in real time, enabling the exchange of ideas, cultures, and movements at a speed never before imagined. The power of the Internet has democratized information, allowing anyone with access to become a participant in the global conversation. technological giants emerged, defining the landscape of the modern world. Companies like Google, Apple, and Facebook transformed the way we interact with information and one another. At the same time, revolutionary technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and quantum computing have opened new frontiers in science, commerce, and ethics. The rapid advancement of technology has also driven major innovations in how we manage cities, transport goods, and produce energy. Smart cities equipped with data-driven infrastructure are being built around the world, ushering in a new era of urban living. Yet, the digital age has also raised profound questions. The rise of automation has sparked debates about the future of work. Data privacy, cyber threats, and surveillance have become critical concerns as more of our lives move online. And the environmental impact of rapid technological progress is posing serious challenges for the future of the planet. Perhaps no event exemplified the power and the fragility of our interconnected world more than the COVID-19 pandemic. As the world faced a global health crisis, technology played a critical role in both keeping societies connected and highlighting the inequalities that still persist. The pandemic forced humanity to reflect on its vulnerabilities and the limits of progress. As we look toward the future, civilization stands on the brink of a new chapter. Advances in space exploration, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence hold the promise of a transformed human existence. Humanity is no longer confined to Earth. Plans are underway for the colonization of Mars, asteroid mining, and deep space exploration. Entrepreneurs, scientists, and governments are making strides toward realizing the dream of human life beyond our planet. Projects like SpaceX and NASA's Mars missions aim to make humans a multiplanetary species, while new technologies in energy production and sustainable agriculture seek to secure a better future on Earth. On Earth, we face unprecedented challenges. Climate change, resource scarcity, and environmental degradation threaten the future of our species. But with those challenges come remarkable innovations. Renewable energy sources like solar and wind, advances in gene editing, and breakthroughs in climate science offer solutions that could reshape how we live on this planet. The future of civilization will depend not only on technological advances, but on human values. How we respond to issues like climate change, inequality, and political instability will determine the shape of the world for generations to come. Young activists and leaders around the world are pushing for new ways of thinking, challenging the old systems, and advocating for a sustainable, inclusive future. Civilization has come a long way since our ancestors first walked the plains of Africa. We have built cities, empires, and nations. We have conquered disease, sent men to the moon, and unlocked the mysteries of the atom. But the story of civilization is far from over. The dawn of civilization was just the beginning of humanity's endless journey. Across millennia, we have faced trials, adapted, innovated, and evolved. From the early hunters and gatherers to the great empires, from the industrial age to the digital age, civilization is a living entity, constantly changing, growing, and reshaping the world. As we stand on the precipice of the future, we are reminded that the story of civilization is one of continuity and connection. The discoveries, achievements, and challenges of the past have shaped who we are today and will influence who we become tomorrow. Each new generation carries with it the wisdom of the past and the dreams of the future. The dawn of civilization continues in the minds of those who will lead us into the unknown. They will confront challenges we cannot yet imagine, explore possibilities we have not yet conceived, and carry forward the torch of humanity's progress. From the plains of Africa to the stars above, the dawn of civilization is an ongoing story, a story of discovery, resilience, and the enduring spirit of human innovation. What will the next chapter hold? Only time will tell. This is the dawn of civilization. The journey has only just begun.